It is officially here, the Apple Vision Pro. Man, I cannot believe, honestly, that this thing exists. This is a product that I've been waiting for a long time. And I'm not just talking about like since Apple announced it a year ago. This product has been in the rumor mill for a decade, right? A long time. And I've been an enthusiast and like interested in tech and VR and augmented reality for as long as it's been a thing. Like, it's always been fascinating to me, like the future of this technology and where it's going and what it could mean for society and for productivity and for work and everything. And now they've done it and I've been able to experience it. And I'm just really excited about this piece of hardware. Now, it's really interesting. I've got the Quest 2 here as well. I owned the original Quest 1. The first time I used the Quest 1 was like, it was such a mind-blowing experience of like being in this virtual world that I had never really experienced before. And it was incredible. And then the Quest 2 obviously built on top of that, made it even better. The Quest 3 is even better than that. But the interesting thing about the Quest is that for as long as I've owned the Quest 1 and the Quest 2 and used it, I've always had this thought like, this is really cool, but I kind of wish that Apple made it. You know, Apple just does things right. Like the quality of the materials, the workmanship, the glass, the aluminum, like everything with this thing is incredible. Not just in the hardware, but also in the software and the user experience and everything is just a cut above the rest. It is better than anything else out there. In fact, if you take these two devices, just physically, like putting them next to each other, this thing makes this one look like a toy. And it's not just the hardware, but like the software, the experience, the things that you can do in here are just absolutely really incredible. Now, that obviously comes at a much higher price tag. So $3,500 for the Apple Vision Pro versus $500 for the Quest, right? So we're talking about two totally different categories in a way. But I think that is actually the story of the Vision Pro, and that's what makes it so unique. In fact, there was an interview with Palmer Luckey, who's the original founder of Oculus, who created the Quest before Meta bought them. And he was actually talking about the difference between the Vision Pro and the Quest. Actually talked about how he wasn't that impressed with what they did with it. He said that Apple's approach was actually better, and the difference was this. With the Quest, the approach was, let's make a device that's as cheap as possible and get it into as many hands as possible, and then make it better over time. With the Vision Pro, the approach to this device is the complete opposite. It's let's make this the best that it can possibly be and then make it cheaper over time. And that to me is actually what makes the Vision Pro so interesting. It's not necessarily all the technology that's packed into this thing, like all the stuff that it can do, which is amazing and incredible. It's more so the promise of what this means for the future. That's the really exciting part about it. See, what Apple's done with the Vision Pro is that they've packed everything that they possibly can into this device. Like, it pushes the boundaries, or at least hits the boundaries of what is possible with technology today. Everything that you can do with a VR or AR device is in this thing. And it does it better than anybody else has done it before. But the interesting thing about that is that when you experience that and you see those boundaries, it makes it very clear what the glaring issues are of our current technology, the limitations of what it can do. And so that's why the Vision Pro is amazing, but also not at the same time. So let's unpack that. So first I want to talk about some of the standout features of this device, like what it does really, really well. Then I'm going to talk about maybe some of the downsides of this device and what it really still needs improvement on. And then at the end, I'll kind of wrap it up with maybe what my thoughts are on what this probably is going to become, which honestly is actually the most exciting part about this. So first things first, some of the standout features. So number one that I would say is the biggest thing that stands out about this device is honestly the Apple ecosystem. Now, that might not seem like something that's specific to this device and really is only relevant if you're an Apple user, if you have a MacBook and an Apple Watch and an iPhone and an iPad and a computer and everything. The ecosystem of Apple products is what makes a lot of them actually so amazing. The fact that this thing automatically connects to my iMessages and my email, my calendars, and all of my apps and everything that I do, like computer-wise, and it all is just there immediately upon setting it up. But it also presents some things that Apple is able to do with this thing that other people have not been able to do. So for example, this has Mac Virtual Display, so I can take my computer and I can display it inside of here and make it, blow it up really big and make it incredible and awesome. And it's not that that's never been done before. The Quest can do that as well with some third-party apps and a little bit of jankiness in the software, and the screen is a little bit fuzzy, and it's kind of hard to read, and I wouldn't want to spend more than an hour in there and my eyes start to hurt. There's just some caveats that come along with doing it with other headsets where Apple just made it work. And the fact that you don't have to go through all this whole setup process and download software on your computer or anything, you just look at your MacBook and there's a button that pops up and you click it and your screen comes up. That is the magic of the Apple ecosystem. Now, what I will say about the Mac Virtual Display is that I did find that the text is maybe a little bit fuzzy inside of it when compared to the native apps, which are absolutely crystal clear, amazing. The Mac display is the best that's ever been done. Let's be clear. But it's maybe a little bit fuzzy. Maybe makes me think that I don't know how much time I would want to spend actually using this. It's enough that it makes me think maybe I would rather just use my computer or use my phone or my iPad. And so that is something to keep in mind that will probably get better over time, which is good. But the native apps inside of this device, I think, are actually the real use case for the Vision Pro. The native apps are beautiful. They have this really nice glassy effect. You can kind of position them anywhere you want in your room, make them look the way that you want. The text is crisp. It is easy to read. It looks nice. It's beautiful. The experience of using those apps, the look and tap feature of using it works really well. The native apps are incredible. Now, this device ships with, like 1 million apps or something like that you can use on it, because iPad apps are also available for it, as long as the developer hasn't opted out of it like Netflix did and some other people. So there's a lot of apps that you can't access, but the iPad apps inside of the Vision Pro right now are not that great. They're tricky to use. Sometimes you have to look and tap on something that's too small and it's hard to figure out what you're actually tapping on. The experience isn't really there, but the native apps are amazing. And so what I really think is going to make this thing incredible in the future is going to be more native apps, but we'll talk about that more in a minute. Number 2 is just the user interface, the way that Apple designed this around productivity and building apps and windows around your space. It's incredible. You can take an app and you can open up in front of you, and then you can put apps on the side of you, and then you can put an app on another wall or in another room, and those apps will actually stay exactly where you put them. The anchoring, the ability for it to stay there is amazing. Even on the Quest, it could do kind of that where you could put things around, but if you moved your head back and forth, you could see it shifting a little bit. On the Vision Pro, they don't move. It's very convincing, the effect that those apps, those windows are sitting in your space, just floating there. It's pretty amazing how they're able to do it. And so where I think the Vision Pro really shines is in this ability to be an actual work computer, to be an actual productivity device. I feel like that was the thing that was always missing for me from the Quest, that I wanted it to be. That was the long-term use case, at least for me. It needed to have those productivity features, and it just didn't really have it. The Vision Pro, on the other hand, though, is built around that. Not a big emphasis on gaming, more so on productivity and actually using it as a computer, which I think actually makes it way more valuable as a device. Moving on to number 3, as far as standout features go on this, is going to be the ability to watch content. So movies, TV, YouTube. Again, kind of the theme of this video is that Apple has done it better than anybody else before. The Quest could do that. You could watch movies and stuff, but the visual clarity, the fidelity of it, the size of the screen, the environments that they've created, the VR elements or aspects of this device are just absolutely amazing. You can go into the Apple TV app and you can take your screen and start a movie and actually push it out over the top of a lake. The screen is reflecting over the water, and it's amazing, and there's sounds, and you can hear crickets chirping, and you're out there watching this movie on a 50-foot screen. It's incredible. Or you can go into a cinema, or you have different environments that you can sit in, you can watch these movies. The experience of watching 3D movies and 2D movies inside of this thing is absolutely incredible. Now, would I actually use it for that much? For me, it's not actually that big of a use case. I don't ever watch movies by myself. If I'm watching a movie, it's usually with my wife. And that is the one thing about this, is it does isolate you from other people. So the only way we'd be able to do that together is if we both owned one or did some kind of share play magic to watch something together. But it's still not the same as just sitting on the couch and hanging out and watching a movie. But that's just for me. For people who do watch movies and content by themselves a lot, this is incredible. And number 4 for standout features, I gotta say, is personas. If you've seen the personas, you know that they look a little bit weird. right? So like I scanned my face at the first time. I tried it out. It wasn't in the best lighting conditions, but I did it just to try it out. And the thing that came out of that was not me. Absolutely not me. It's a little bit creepy. It's a little bit not real looking. It's strange. And this is where you're really starting to see like the limits of today's technology inside of this device. But at the same time, while it's really creepy and really weird, it's also really amazing. Like the fact that, okay, maybe it doesn't quite look like me, or maybe it's not quite there, and it's going to get better over time. And to Apple's credit, they do say that it's in beta, so we know that it will get better over time. But if you look at the ability for this device to track my face and my nose and my facial expressions and my eyes and everything, we've never seen anything like this. And it's actually really crazy looking at the device and moving your mouth and everything and watching this thing replicate your movements so accurately. It's kind of crazy. So the personas thing is like really amazing and then like also really weird at the same time. But I'm really excited to see like what happens with that in the future as it gets better. So those are some of the biggest things that stick out to me about this device. And like I said, it really is pushing the limits of technology today and what is capable. But then by doing that, it also shows you this promise of what it could be, which almost diminishes the entire experience. So let's talk about maybe some of those downsides that you experience being inside this when you know that like this is amazing right now, but not what it will be in the future. So I think the biggest thing that's going to be the most obvious is just the size and weight of this. It's a heavy headset. It's somewhat in line with other headsets out there, but maybe more so on the heavy side. But this thing, versus the Quest, which is made of all plastic and is really light, it's made of metal. It's made of glass. Like it's a heavy headset. It's not that comfortable. Now I will say that after a couple days of using it, it has gotten better. For the first day or two, it was very much like, I don't know if I could spend even 30 or 45 minutes in this without having to take it off. There's so much pressure on your forehead and your cheeks. But I will say that over time, this might sound weird, but you start to get better at putting it on. The first time you put it on and you're having to adjust it and fix it and adjust and everything, and you're like, I don't know if I want to do this. This doesn't make sense for me to spend time in this thing that just like takes forever when I could just look at my iPad. But when you get better and better at just taking the thing and slipping it on really quick, it makes the use case actually way more feasible. And I will say that over time, your face does get used to it. Your eyes do get used to it to where it's not as uncomfortable anymore, and you can actually wear it for longer periods of time. But the weight and the size of it is really just a limitation of technology today. Like someday, the goal with this thing is to make it into a smaller pair of glasses or even just a smaller pair of goggles that would make a lot more sense that you can just slip on really quick. Like imagine if you had just a pair of glasses, it may never be actually this small, but if it was something that's just simpler that you can just throw on like that, it actually increases the usability of a device like this by a huge margin. Because now you can use it in a way that's not, so clunky and big and heavy. So again, that's the kind of the future of what's coming with a device like this. So the second big downside of this device, I'm going to say, is the lack of native apps available for it. The native apps inside of this headset, like I've already said, are amazing. And they actually present what I think is the best use case for this, because using the native apps in there is a great experience. It's actually usable. It's actually feasible. It actually makes sense. The problem is that there's just not a lot of them available yet. In fact, I found myself the other night just hanging out in the living room after my kids went to bed, and I was sitting there like wanting to play with my new toy. But then I was like, but if I put it on, what am I going to do? Like there's just not a lot to do with it. And that's just by nature of the fact that there's just not a lot of apps for it yet. But again, that's something that is going to change. Apple has one of the biggest app ecosystems, one of the biggest networks of developers in the world. It's coming. The apps are coming. They're just not really quite there yet. And number 3 for downsides, I'm going to say, is the pass-through quality. This is something that has been talked about at length online about the quality of being able to see through the goggles into your real world and see your real room. And I got to say that just like everything else in this review, it is the best that has ever been done. It really is very good. I think what's most impressive about it is not necessarily the image quality, but it's the natural field of view that you get. It actually feels like the way that your eyes feel when you're looking at the room. Using other headsets, it's always like you're looking through a really weird, like fisheye camera, and it's really grainy, or it's black and white, or doesn't look very good, and you just get this experience where like you're clearly looking through cameras. The Vision Pro does actually create a really convincing look that once you get past it and you start looking at apps and stuff, you're not really paying attention to the surroundings. It feels very natural. It feels like you're looking at your room. But if you look closely at it, like it's not perfect. It's grainy. The edges aren't very clear. especially if you're in a room that's not lit very well. It likes a lot of light. So if you're in a room that's dark or dim, you're going to see some motion blur. And those are just artifacts of looking through cameras, right? It's not real life. You are looking through a camera, and it's just going to happen. And that's what our cameras are capable of doing today. And that's just the story of this entire device. It is pushing the limitations of technology that's available today. It does everything that it can do, but then using it, you start to realize that like, wow, there's still so much more room for this technology to get even better. And that I think is what is amazing about the Vision Pro. It's also what the downsides are about the Vision Pro, but it's also what makes this device so exciting, is the promise of the future and what could be coming. And that I think is why this thing is so interesting to me. In fact, I wasn't really that interested in it for the first couple of days that I was using it. It was kind of like, it was fun, it's a novel new toy that you can play with and try some things out. But after a couple of days, it was like, well, now what am I gonna do with it? Like, what is the point of this thing? Can I see myself using it long term? And it wasn't until I did something kind of weird, kind of crazy, that I actually got really excited about this. And what it was is that on a whim one night, I was like, I wonder what this thing would look like if I just took the cushion and the face seal off. So you can actually, so there's a cushion here that makes it soft on your face. You can pull that off, it just magnets on. And then there's a seal here that you can take off like this that is used to block out the light to make sure that you don't have any light leaking through. And so what I did randomly is I took the device just like this, and you can see that without those things, it's actually a very slim device. It's pretty incredible. And I took it and I just put it on just like this. And when I did that, I got really excited about this device. Now, it's obviously not comfortable. The lenses are just sitting on your nose, like digging into your nose. Like it's not meant to be worn that way. But what you will see when you do that is what this device could become. Because what happens is now it starts to feel like a light pair of glasses or goggles that you're just putting on your face. In fact, looking through it, you can still see in your peripherals outside of the device. And looking through the cameras, the color rendition on them is so good that it feels like a continuation of what you're seeing in real life. And so then all you're seeing is two big black, what look like glasses frames in front of your eyes. And suddenly it feels more natural. It feels like you're actually connected to the world. It feels like you're there rather than being shut off and looking through cameras at everything through a small field of view. It's actually like I can see everything. I feel like I'm in the room, and the effect of the windows floating in the room became so much more convincing. And that was when I started to get excited about this, because I saw what this could become. In fact, it was so convincing and so good that it made me actually wonder why Apple didn't figure this out for this version of it. Because think about it, you could take like these just magnet in, like somebody, probably a third party will probably do this, where you create an insert where it just kind of goes like along your brow right here, and then maybe some padding along your nose, where you could actually wear these as goggles like this. I don't know if that's gonna happen or what it's gonna be, but there's a lot of people talking about this online, and this actually completely blew me away. So at the end of the day, that's what makes the Apple Vision Pro so interesting and so exciting to me. Does it push the limits of technology today? Yes. Is it perfect? No. Does it show you what the future could be? Yes. Which is exciting, but then also kind of is the biggest downfall of this device. But overall, I gotta say, like, I'm really impressed with this thing. I've been having a lot of fun playing with it and trying it out. I'm really looking forward to more apps coming and more experiences that become available for it to make it more useful in a day-to-day work environment. And most of all, just really excited to see how this technology develops over time and gets better and better and better, but also gets smaller and cheaper and becomes more feasible for more people to use all the time. So that's it. That's my take on the Apple Vision Pro. I'm excited to keep using this and keep doing more with it. Let me know what your thoughts are. Go ahead and comment down below, and we'll see you on the next video.